Welcome to the Consultant's Way podcast, where we explore the world of professional services consulting. Hosted by Dean McMann and Anthony Paluska, each episode delivers expert insights, real-world stories, and interviews with top consultants to help you refine your consulting skills.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. You've got Dean McMann and Anthony Paluska, and we are here for another exciting topic that we've been talking around a lot on these other sessions, and it's about executive relationships. I think we all understand why they're important and what really matters about building and maintaining those relationships, but we're going to talk a little bit about what makes one successful at building those and maintaining those relationships, and some tools and some tricks that everybody can use to help improve. Because I think we all think we're doing a pretty good job at that at different times, but there's always some room for improvement on this topic based on just everybody that we've interacted with. That's for sure.
Yeah, I would go even further. I think we don't focus on why it's important. We don't measure, we don't talk about it internally to all kinds of professional service groups, pure play and other. And some do, and they make their career. I think it's a discipline, but also I think you need to start young, early in your career. And I know way back during World War II, when I started, that was something they talked about a lot. That make friends now, help people now, and then you'll mature. But why is it important?
Yeah. And we did, right, just for everybody as a quick public service announcement here, we did publish just recently a short summary of article of this, but also a brief self-assessment at the end of it that somebody can go through. And the interesting part about that is everybody kind of went through that process. You don't have to fill the whole thing out, but as you go through it, you start to say, wow, this area is something that I'm certainly, I could use some improvement on, right, as I think about it and as I approach this.
And what I like about that is, and when I assess myself in something, if nothing else, it makes me aware.
That's right.
And I practice more and I get involved more.
I think that's the main thing here, right? Nothing we're going to say, I think, is revolutionary to anybody, but it's a good reminder on a lot of these topics that it's something that you need to be deliberate and focused on actually trying to solve for.
Might be a thing or two that's interesting.
Yeah. It may new and it depends.
I'm not going to knock that out yet, but hey, you tell us at the end.
Yeah. So why do executive relationships matter? Well, I mean, I think it's a pretty straightforward question to start, but let's ground everybody on this.
You've got a 2x2 of 4 boxes, let's say. One is doing work, one is, talent and managing and enabling talent, and one is, bringing the client along and driving success, and the other one to me is executive relationships. And I would probably say that I've known lots of successful consultants that were okay on the other 3, but really great on the executive, and they did better.
Yeah.
And I know lots of them that are really great at doing work and can't develop executive relationships, and they fail in their career. They fail on accounts. So in many ways, it may be the most important skill.
Yeah.
It's definitely the most important skill for getting work.
That's right. Yes. And being able to do that in a way that kind of works on 2 axes, right? As we think about this, right? There's trust and there's helpfulness that go into building and fostering that particular relationship. And so I think there's different strategies for both of those and how you do it, but you have to build both simultaneously and over a period of time with an executive, and they're the ones that are making the buying decisions. They're the ones that are influencing. They're the ones you ultimately need to have those relationships with, and it always comes back to, are you able to build that trust and rapport, and are you able to be helpful and add value to especially those early interactions, but as much as you can to every interaction, because as we've talked about before, this isn't just about us getting and selling work. This is about us providing value, and it's the investment that we make over time that's really important there.
And Anthony, you know me, let's 100 years maybe.
Yeah, anyway, at least.
Most of my best friends are clients.
Yeah,
were clients at one time. So it's important, and we're going to talk about all that. So let's just leave it with, I can't imagine something more important.
Well, I think you told me a story once about
it's not true.
Well, yeah, okay. One of your sons, and at some point in their life, they realized, like, are these Dean's friends? Or are these people that works with Dean? What's the nature of all of these people that just keep showing up in my life?
Yeah. And I was like, why?
Those are the same.
Why are you evaluating people? But that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
That is a true story.
Yeah.
So all right.
So to take one of those, trust or helpfulness, and at a high level, what are we talking about there, and what are some strategies that we could do that somebody could do to foster that?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna use a story of something that just happened. I was with a consultant with their client,
Okay.
right? A senior person, and I watched the interaction, and I came away with them. We're driving away, and by the way, the meeting was successful, and we were talking about it. I said, "You were very pointed on getting the deal. That's great. However, you did not show any interest, or not enough. Any is such a bad word. You did not show."
The first 2 minutes of the conversation was about how have you been?
Yeah, but not really. The other person brought up stuff, and if you cared, you'd want to know, and why did that happen? So, and by the way, the other person I was with is a wonderful person, but so half of it is caring and doing the things you would do if you care and you were interested, and you should be.
Mm-hmm.
The other half is adding value. And one of the things recently, and we might explore this, but a client said, what I really enjoy about our relationship is X and Y. Those things were really about me being well-educated, well-rounded. I don't mean educated in school. Well-rounded, understanding business, and being willing to share my views about things. And some of the conversation was actually political, which is weird because you don't normally talk about that. So I think there's the two pieces are, becoming true. A third piece we talk about some is leveraging that account for their value in their company and leveraging that account for their value in their career, but also leveraging that account for our opportunity in our company.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I think your ability and your example there to go into some of those other topics that you talked about and to be vulnerable and even approach a topic like a politics or something like that, build some trust with somebody, right? It shows that you're able to have a broader conversation. You're able to build, you're truly invested in building the relationship there, and you're open-minded in some of those things. And I think that's a valuable way to view this, right? It's and so there's obviously that aspect of it that says, okay, there needs to be some level of not just a business relationship, but some vulnerability and some personal relationship there to build that level of trust. And then there's the helpfulness aspect of it, which comes in a bunch of different ways. It comes in a way of just being understanding of their situations and their problems, and then but when you're working with an executive as well, it's about how well are you actually helping them solve the problem or advance in their career or do those different things that you're talking about there. What, from your perspective, how does competency fit into all of that and our ability to actually do good work and solve some of those problems, right? It fits into helpfulness, but I think it's a bit separate. How do you view that?
Well, if your organization is not competent, which may be your need or their need, because you may be doing work or not doing work, then you really are at a disadvantage. Yeah. So you've got to do good work, and the quality and we're not talking about that too much today, but yeah, you've got to be competent. But your own personal competency needs to be executive competency. And presence matters. Thought, how we address things, listening and understanding them and using language they can understand. That I call that executive presence and executive relating, but somebody may not have experienced that yet.
Yeah, and I think you develop those skills over time and you practice at them and do some of that. But
that's key.
Back to
you can practice.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not black or white.
But going back to last time we spoke on one of these topics, the communication plan itself is a good tool to help organize some of those thoughts in advance so that you can be a little bit more deliberate about.
It can help you. It's a nice tool to community to ask questions about. By the way, just as a story,
yeah.
And I hope you remember this. You and I are somewhere in this story in recent months, driving somewhere. I think you were driving, but I can't imagine.
Always.
I can't imagine that, but it could have happened.
Yeah, and we don't let you drive.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's fine. Anyway, I take a call, and I'm on with someone who has left a client, not on purpose, and I am done with that. And then I'm on the call with the same client And I'm talking about caring about both of them and keeping both relationships by making them both see that was probably a good decision for everybody. That is an executive relationship. And I'm not suggesting everybody do it. It's kind of high, but okay. But the really funny thing is he had just done the same thing a half an hour earlier with a different company and a different executive that was asked to leave. And we compared how we did that, and we both believe there's a moral obligation to both.
Yeah. Right. We help the person that had to let somebody go because there was a reason for that, but that other person has great opportunity that we want to help them find.
And we value every person. And that's what's great about consulting. You get to value every person for what they are. Doesn't mean you like everybody. Doesn't mean you enjoy everybody. Doesn't mean people aren't a real pain. Yeah. But and by the way, it's not whether you like the executive or not. Can you help them?
Yeah.
And be their friend. They don't have to be your friend.
Yeah. It's a good story. The sad part of that story in my mind is that I do not remember where we were, and it was only a month ago. And so that
I remember the people, but not the place.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's sad.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's kind of sad. It means it all blurs together a little bit.
It's a lot of travel. It's a lot of travel in life.
We're not going to get into that right here. So one concept that we talk about a lot is, and we just touched on it there, is how do you add value? How do you find a way to add value in every single interaction, right? Ultimately becoming helpful to somebody and viewing that as your obligation is finding some way to add value in those communications. I think so often people are hesitant to reach out and to maintain a relationship with an executive because they don't feel like they have anything to share or to say or to add. How do you think about working that, especially in the early stages of building that relationship?
Yeah, I think, again, I'm going to go back to something you said as an Uber topic is, hey, you're just practicing.
Yeah.
Hey, you're just practicing. Just like if you were practicing something as a child in a sport, you're just practicing. So take the pressure off you. Find something that you think would be interesting to them. Doesn't have to be. So it's an article. It's a study. It's something you saw in their company. One executive at a client, and I went to a meeting he ran, and I noticed no one listened. So at the end of the meeting, guy didn't know me that well. Don't know if he liked me at the time. Went and said, hey, that was kind of weird for me because you were talking about X, Y, and Z, and nobody seemed to be listening. He said, well, this is a new thing for us, and we're having a hard time with it because our whole business works this way. And I said, well, maybe I can help you organize that a little bit. And 20 years later, guy's still a dear friend, right? Mm-hmm. So sometimes it's something you see, but you can be deliberate and say, hey, guy runs a sales organization, some comp study. Woman runs a healthcare firm. Hey, and by the way, in topics like that, try not to give them what everybody's already thought about and talked about. Try to be a little novel, right? So years ago, when the big accounting firms were trying to do what they thought with the consulting groups, this is adding value, but I created the content. I wrote an article and said that audit firms should not have consulting firms. Those consulting firms were my client, and we went and talked about it. But they respected that I said, hey, it's fundamentally a problem to audit someone and have independence and be paid another $150 million to advise them. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying that it's worth talking about, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So add value and go and make the meeting, to your point. How do you begin? And don't be reluctant. Hey, Carol, I'm going to be in Cleveland, or I'd like to come to Cleveland, and I'd like to see you, and I'd like to, have coffee. And it's always better if you can get them out of the office. I'm not saying you can do that, but it's always better. They're more comfortable. And I'd love to have a cup and they're probably not in the office much anymore anyway. Yeah. I'd like to have a cup of coffee and get to know you. You don't have to sell the value up front. They're going to say, okay, normally. If they don't, then we have some workarounds. And then when you sit down, say, hey, it's great to see you. I wanted to get to know you better. And by the way, I brought you this study, this piece of paper, this article. They appreciate that. And you've added value, and you've turned the table to be about the value and not about yourself, right?
Yep.
And that's important.
Yeah, I think the one that you called out there is I think everybody is so quick to jump to, I need to get this person on a phone call because I haven't seen them or talked to them in a long time. And sometimes it does take a little bit more investment than that. I found, phone calls, especially in the early stages of those relationships, are great, right? They're helpful if you can get those, but they are always fit in the middle of somebody's day when they've got 1,000 other priorities. And even though they intended to have that conversation and catch up with you, they don't yet see the value that you're going to be able to provide to a conversation like that. And so you get pushed off for other priorities, especially in those early stages. And so investing in, if you are in their location, if you're there doing something outside of the office, outside of work hours, giving them an opportunity to psychologically remove themselves from that is value in and of itself in some ways, because it is a free space for them to talk about work if they want to talk about work, but also not think about that, rather than, how do I fit this in between two meetings that I already have scheduled?
Yeah, how do I be courteous to them but not interrupt my life?
Right.
This is me, and I'm not speaking for everybody else, but I have always been very willing to go see people. Yeah. It's a rule. I want to go see them. I want them to know that I care. We were just talking to someone today that I took a Uber from the Denver airport out to East, wherever, and had lunch with this guy, wonderful guy, turned out to be great, very smart guy. And he goes, hey, I can't give you a ride back into town. And how are you going to get back in town? I said, I thought I'd take an Uber. Goes, Ubers don't come out here. and it worked out. But I didn't think that way. I thought
a long walk for
it. I would still be in better shape had I done it. But, so commit to the relationship. And we're talking about going to see them. That's just part of commit to the relationship. Another thing that people talk about is, I don't think that person likes me, or I have a difficulty with it. All the more reason to invest in a relationship. Mm-hmm. And you'll be amazed. One of my dearest friends and a board member of ours, first time I talked to him years ago, he was a client at a big company, and he goes, you're 2 minutes late. I can't believe you're treating me this way. And I thought, oh, this is not the nicest guy I ever talked to. And by the way, I wasn't 2 minutes late. Mm-hmm. But I decided then, I'm going to go get to know this guy. And man, it worked out great.
Yeah. No, some of the best relationships I have with some key executives and a source of a lot of more business and work for us have come from people that initially started off on the wrong foot with, and you rebuild that relationship, you repair that, and you never know why that is, right?
Yeah. That's it. Right. Yeah. Don't judge it.
It's not personal in many cases.
And by the way, and I've heard you say this a bunch, this relationship is not about you. Yeah. This relationship is not about, it's just like any important relationship with a family member or someone you care about. It is about them. That doesn't mean that they're not going to help you when you need help. And they're not going to recommend you or buy. Of course they will. Yeah. But in the example I was given a minute ago of the person I think didn't put enough time in a relationship, they were very concerned about explaining that they wanted them to buy. And again, I said, of course they knew you wanted them to buy.
Yeah. Well, so that's a good transition. So
of course they knew you.
Because that's always the question.
You don't want them to buy?
Yeah, that's always the question, which is, how do you, right? You do all these things that we've talked about here. You've invested in a relationship. You've spent a lot of time on it. How do you, and when do you transition from providing value to, in a subtle way or in the appropriate way, getting something out of that relationship that's beneficial to you? Because a lot of people are investing in these relationships and they're working this, and not everything's going to pay off into long-term work, and nor should it, right? There's value in just having the relationship in and of itself. But I suspect there's some people listening that are on the, but I'm trying to turn some of these relationships into more business for me. How do you do that delicately? Because it shouldn't be self-serving, and doing it in the wrong way or at the wrong time can hurt that relationship.
Yeah. So first of all, just like fishing, this is an example an IBM gave me. Fishing, you want to have a lot of lines in the water. So you do not bet on one executive relationship. 2, make a relationship for a very long time. Okay. Now, in a given relationship with those 2 truths, mm-hmm. I'm invested for the long haul. I really do care. And I'm not betting my firm on Jimmy the Greek, right? Whoever he was. It's okay to say, hey, listen, we've got that proposal into the healthcare group you have. And I'd really like some help understanding how to get that approved. Or, listen, I really enjoy you. We've worked together before. I'd like to come work with your current organization. And I have some ideas, right? I'm not going to make myself, because it's not fair to them, the beggar at the street corner. That's not fair to them. I don't want their empathy. I want their companionship. I want their support. So I want to bring, hey, you've got a new complex job and they're not doing well financially. Tell me about your strategy. What are you, hey, wait a minute. Now that's a tough one. Hey, we can help with that. Let me tell you what we would do. Yeah. Right? So it's totally okay to do. They want you to do well, just like you want them to do well. But you can never, let's say they just bought a big thing. And this is just practical, just like in any other relationship, someone did something wonderful for you. I had a time a guy bought me a car, right? That's an interesting thing. He bought me a car, bought me a Range Rover, right? He was a client, bought me a Range Rover. It was the way he wanted to pay for something. Big company too, very strange. Well, he took a lot of stuff out of the relationship. He poured back, I wanted to pour back in. So if this person buys something or helps you, you need to be thinking, how do I make them not regret that? Mm-hmm. How do I make them know I truly care? So you need to replenish as well as harvest.
Yeah. Right? The end of that relationship and all your journey is not to get to them to do something for you, right? It's all
not just on the road.
Yeah.
Just like you do with all your friends and everything.
Yeah.
So I had somebody tell me recently, I've been coaching for a couple of years at senior pro. He goes, this isn't that hard. Bingo. He got it. Yeah. It's not hard, but it is an investment of time. We both know a gentleman who's a partner in a firm that said to me, how much time do you allocate to this? This is like, I go, oceans of time. I mean, but it's natural. I've built I do care.
And it's not a 9-to-5 thing. It is.
What's Carol doing?
It becomes your activity.
On my drive in, we have a place where we do this. It's not near our office. It's actually an hour away. On my drive in today, I'm listening to a book. I got 4 or 5 things out of that book that I texted to myself to tell executives because they're on my mind. Yeah. I go, wow, that's really interesting. I wonder if Bob's ever thought about that. Yeah. Now, I'm not looking for a deal from Bob, but I am looking that maybe Bob can use that, right? So it's a big investment, but as we said, there's nothing more valuable and more important.
Yeah, no, it becomes the way you just do everything, right? It becomes part of the lifestyle and part of just your attitude towards building and maintaining relationships. Shouldn't be exclusively focused on business outcomes, but it should just be, all of these are practical for just all walks of your life. And as long as you approach it like that, to your point, then your kids start to look at you and start to say, I don't know if that person's your friend or somebody that you work with. And the answer is both, right?
In the book Shogun, and by the way, I'm a big reader. He gets tired of me bringing like physics problems to him. But in the book Shogun's a Japanese warlord. He makes friend with an English captain of a boat. And in the book, he says, I can't have friends among my own people that I can really share with and tell my fears and my needs. They need that. An executive needs a confidant or many confidants, just like we need friends. So understand that they can't always say, it's not safe. Not everything's a safe environment and not safe for certain thoughts. So anyway, it's a symbiotic relationship. It's very healthy. You invest in it and you do get value out of it, and you make sure you get value out of it, and you make sure they get value.
Yes. So, in conclusion, a couple of key takeaways for everybody. Do you want to provide some things for everybody to keep in mind as they look to improve upon this?
Wherever you are in your career, it's not too late. Make this a serious part. If you're managing consultants or professional service people or sales people, make sure make it a measurable thing you talk about. Communication plan's great for that, but it should be an important thing. You don't want to end up at a point in your career where you haven't done that and you cannot jumpstart situations for your firm and for your clients because you really have never built any friendships, right? And then the other takeaway, the thing why I say it's not about you, I'm not saying they don't care about you, but just like in an important relationship, you don't start with you. You start with and kind of everything you do. Be interested in what's going on in their lives. I mean, lives are hard, right? Anthony's got like 17 children. It's well, maybe 2 girls, but it seems like
It feels
17
like it sometimes.
What's your takeaway?
No, I agree. I think it's everybody can benefit from just spending a little bit of an additional time focusing on this as a priority. So carve out some deliberate time initially in your schedule to put together a plan of who are the people that I want to build better relationships with, or I haven't reached out to in a while and I want to maintain something, and make it a point over the next week, 2 weeks to look for something that would be interesting or could be interesting to that person and make it a reason to reach out and try to do something.
Practice, right? Well, thank you guys. I hope you got a lot out of this. We sure enjoyed it. And we'll see you next month. And please turn in, because we're going to take one aspect of project success and talk about how project success is not what we think it is. It's what they think it is. And if we haven't got them there, that's on us.
Thank you.
Thank you.